last year, I was trying to understand like the idea that, because some people, they go out into the desert and they meditate, and the way that they meditate basically causes these phenomena in the sky, and they believe it's UFOs and ships flying around in the sky. And they do this and Stephen Greer, I think he's one of the ones that leads these, like, out into the desert kind of gatherings. Okay. And they have a lot of like video evidence to support this. And he's done several documentaries. Not only that, but he's like legit. I believe he legitimately cares about the phenomena, because I think it was in the early, and maybe will correct me because I don't know the exact date.
You know what?
But this was, I want to say this was in either the early, I think it was the early 2000s or the late 2000s, where he got a crap load of people who served in the military, who worked for the government, politicians, to come together, and they held a national conference. So I thought, well, this is interesting. And, the premise is that some of these races are telepathic, that they actually want to connect with us, but they're not going to be invasive, and that they want to just they want us to accept them first before they make themselves present. Because if they just land, in the middle of some place, they're probably going to get blown up. That's the premise.
Yeah. Especially right now.
I know. So if we meditate and go through this whole routine of taking our consciousness into the sky, going up into space, and allowing our consciousness to find a craft or where these beings might be, then we can basically merge with their minds and then bring them back by showing them visuals of where we are in the world, so that they can come to our present location. And I thought, okay, well, that sounds interesting. So I downloaded the app from Stephen Greer. I did it once, and I was like, I wasn't feeling it. So I left it at that. A few weeks later, I woke up in the middle of the night. It was like 2 or 3 o'clock in the middle of the night. Woke up. I walked over to the kitchen because I was thirsty. And I don't ever wake up to go to the kitchen. I never wake up in the middle of the night like that. I may wake up to go pee, but I didn't go pee. I just woke up because I felt like I needed to wake up and go get some water. So I went, got some water. And then as I was walking back, our windows are pretty big, and the blinds were up, and I could see the stars just sparkling through the windows. And I was like, oh my God, they're so beautiful. And I just almost felt a summoning to go out there. And I didn't really know why, but I felt like I needed to go outside. And so I went, I put on like my heavy robe, put on some socks, etc. Ed woke up and he was like, what are you doing? And I was like, oh, I feel like I need to go outside and watch the stars. He's like, okay. And then he went back to sleep. So I went outside, sat out there, and I just sat there and stared at the sky and the stars. And I was like, okay, guys, I'm here. Make yourselves known to me. I would like to have a connection with you if you exist. I've been wanting evidence for so long. Give me something. I want to know. So I did the meditation. I said, fuck it. I'm just going to do the meditation and see what happens. So I did the meditation, and then afterwards, nothing happened. There was nothing extraordinary occurred. So I was like, okay. But I was out there for a good hour. Then I got too cold, and I was like, okay, I'm going to come back inside. Came back, went to sleep, whatever. A few weeks later, we went to Sedona for Easter. And we stayed at a house out like in the middle of nowhere, but we decided we were going to go hit up the vortices, because apparently in Sedona there are these vortices, these places where you feel energy, or there's kind of an energy vortex that exists and you can connect with, and it's interdimensional. And I didn't know this at the time, but when we went to different places, I would sit there, we would feel something. We only felt something at one place, which was Airport Mesa, which is the most popular one. And it wasn't just I that felt something, Ed felt something as well. But all the other vortices that we went to didn't really feel nothing. So one of the places that we went to was this place called Bell Rock. And it's one of the places that is pretty well known in Sedona, because the rock is shaped like a bell, and you can climb it and kind of go up it. So I decided I was going to go. So we went up, we were climbing up. Ed was scared of heights. He didn't want to go any further. I was like, that's fine. I'm going to go higher up. So I went higher, and I got to a spot that I was by myself, and you could see the parking lot, because the parking lot wasn't that far away. And you could also see the airport and the planes taking off and going there. And every few moments, a helicopter would fly by with probably tourists who were wanting to see the entire landscape of Sedona. And I decided I was going to take pictures. It was so beautiful. I had to take pictures. So I took out my camera, my iPhone, and I snapped a picture, and then I moved it. I snapped another picture. So literally, like, I snapped one picture, maybe 1-2 seconds, snapped another picture, and then I snapped another picture. And so in the course of snapping those pictures, I caught something on the picture and I didn't realize it at the time. But when I got back home, because I was like, oh, I can't wait to share these. When I got back home, I was going through and editing to, make the colors pop and to bring out and as I was editing one of them, I saw a little like spot and I thought something was on my screen because you know how you get something on your phone and you're like, it's just us. And so I blew it and it didn't go anywhere. I was like, okay. So then I tried to scratch it. Maybe it's just something that was stuck to the screen. It didn't move. And I was like, what is that? And so I zoomed in and I'll be damned if it looks like a goddamn flying saucer. And I was like,
I remember this, I think.
yeah. Yeah, this is the one that I posted on Instagram when that happened. And I didn't realize it till I got back home and was looking through the pictures. And I was like, what is that? And so, at the time when I thought back to it, I'm like, well, maybe it was an airplane or a helicopter because we were near an airport. And I remember I caught pictures of a helicopter there and of a plane there. And I put them next to each other. It doesn't look anything like it. And I was like, okay. I remember that there were ravens kind of like flying by. And I thought, well, maybe this was just a raven like snow diving or diving and flying. And so here in New Mexico, here in Santa Fe, we have black ravens, So I went up to one of the mountains and I tried to recreate to see if I could capture a raven and other birds just diving or flying in a certain way. But you could always tell it was a bird. And the closest one I caught was of a hawk, where the body's somewhat round, but you could still tell the front is a beak and stuff. So I was like, that's not, okay, this is not a bird. I showed my sister and she's like, well, it's a blimp. I was like, baby girl. I was like, we live by Minute Maid Park. I know what a blimp looks like. That is not a blimp. Like I would have been I would have been able to very clearly see that it was a blimp. And for it to be only in one picture when the other two didn't have it, it's no way. A blimp doesn't move that fast in and out of a shot within seconds, right? So I was like, this is not a blimp. And so I was trying to figure it out. Somebody suggested I call the airport and ask if they had anything in that spot or whatever, which I was going to do, but I just don't like calling official organizations and then sounding like a crazy person. So I just never did it. Right. I just never did it. And someone said, well, maybe it's a drone. I'm like, it's possible. That is possible. I'm not going to rule that out. But there's only one company that creates or that has produced a UFO shaped drone, and they're out of like Switzerland or out of like Europe, and they've only created so many. So, and they're a very bright colored, white colored like disc. So it's not this thing that I captured, which is the darker color.
Yeah.
So I still to this day do not know what it is. And I'll show y'all a picture because I'm sure y'all are like, what, Ferny, I want to see it. I want to see it. So here's the picture. So if you see it, you can see a spot up there. So I'm on Bell Rock and you can see it kind of way up there in the sky. And remember, it wasn't there 2 seconds before and it wasn't there like a few seconds after. It was only there in this one image. So then when you bring it closer, because you're probably like, I want to see closer. So let me bring it closer here so you can see it. So there's it closer.
Hell yeah.
So as you see it closer, you can tell like, okay, that looks like a artificial craft. That doesn't look like like an animal. But you can see it. You're like, what is that? And so I thought maybe it's a drone, right? But the parking lot was right there and I didn't hear any drone. And for those of you who have ever been around a drone, they're pretty damn loud. You can't really hide that sound because they're pretty loud. And then the last picture, which I enhanced it, you can see it's got a top to it. So the bottom looks almost like it's completely solid. The top is rounded and it's got kind of like this shiny, because that's just me enhancing it. All I did by enhancing it was just mess with the contrast and added saturation just so that I could tell more detail. And it looks like a disc shaped object. So I don't know what that is. And I don't know what that is. And so to this day, I never found out, don't know, but that happened like a week and a half after I did the meditation and I asked them to show themselves because I wanted to get some sort of evidence. And then I got evidence without even realizing it until I got back here.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, I think it definitely but I think you're doing the meditation and opening yourself up to it, opened the door to this experience because, I mean, we all have our antennas and connected just by being material.
Yeah.
So, I mean, aliens too.
Yeah. Well, apparently, and I found this out afterwards, that area is actually a hotspot for UFOs in Sedona. But when I went online
Yeah.
looking for other people who maybe have caught something, no one, I didn't see anything. But I was like, okay, well, I got something. I don't know what it is. I want to see if somebody else has caught the same thing because maybe I can match it up to it. And I'm not going to say that it's an alien craft, but I'm going to say it is definitely unidentified because I don't know what it is.